All right, happy Friday afternoon. Just afternoon. My timer is off. Let's turn that off because it's not correct. So glad you could join us. We've got a few people on here. Let us know where you're coming from. We'll throw out some shouts on that. And just wanted to do a Friday. I was throwing some music out and I realized, what if they can't hear the music? I don't know if you can hear the music or not. I'm just dancing to the music that maybe you can't hear. And if so, that was the case. I am not having a seizure. So even though I've probably been accused of that anytime I attempt to dance. So we're glad you guys are here. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Mike Hall. I'm president and founder of Strong Fathers, Strong Families. We are working with fathers and families and been doing so for the last 17 years as Strong Fathers, the last 20 years personally in fatherhood work, and a father for actually 28 years. And so we want to just spend some time on a Friday, throw some stuff out, see if you have any questions. You're welcome to hit us up on the comments on Facebook, and I think we can pull those up and hit those and see if you have any questions. I actually spent the morning working with a bunch of dads in Singapore, which that's already their Friday night. So I always greet them from yesterday or from the past and ask them, okay, are we going to see Friday night? If you're there on Friday night, does that mean we get Friday night? All those things. It's a really funny joke if you're a granddad. So had a really good turnout with those guys, almost 400 dads, fathers and families. What was amazing was the responses that I was getting to the material we were presenting was very similar to what we get here. The questions they were asking is very similar to what we're asking here, or what people struggle with when we start talking to dads, particularly kind of at random, people that haven't been through our programs or programming or whatever, just dads coming to seek counsel and help and discussion. A lot of the same stuff. And so we'll be bringing some of that forward as we go forward with this. So that's kind of our intro. Let me jump in here real quick. So this week we had May the 4th be with you. And, well, where'd it go? There it is. So we had May the 4th be with you on Monday. Big Star Wars deal and all the things that go with that. And then on Tuesday was Cinco de Mayo, which happens to be my mom's birthday. And so that's going to bring about some of the things we're going to talk about today, even as a fatherhood guy. And some of you are still paying for what you did on Cinco de Mayo. Did some of you actually behave yourself better since you had to do it at home? Or did you behave yourself in a less than savory manner because you weren't out in public? So let us know how you survived Cinco de Mayo. Or is that just something you can only do when you can go out in public? Or have you had a tequila problem in private for a long time? May not want to put that in the comments, but we'd be glad to find you some help. And so a big deal, but no big deal this year, where everybody's usually out, even on a Tuesday night. Cinco de Mayo or the weekend before would be a huge blowout in Texas and other places. And I don't even know that it was a whimper. But it's also my mom's birthday. And so that leads us to kind of this first thing. I just now came up with this, right? I don't know why we haven't seen it before. I think maybe because we use some different nomenclature. But wife is actually women in father engagement. And that would be okay because I happen to have a lovely wife who has supported father engagement, like I said, for 28 years. And then also, as I took on a new role as a fatherhood consultant with a group out of Austin, and then jumped out on my own in 2003 with Strong Fathers, Strong Families. She has been here the whole time, supporting the work that hopefully supports us. But the other thing that's interesting about that is it's not always been easy for her as a mom to support me as a fatherhood guy, because there's some contrast, right? There's some things she has to deal with as a mom to give me leeway as a father as I preach that stuff. And so she has been supportive as a wife to a man that has a business. She has been supported as a wife to a guy that's trying to be a better father and a better man. But this didn't come about just because of all the great support I get. It came about because it's women in family engagement. And my good buddy, Randall Turner, and I have actually both done workshops both separately and together about the leadership role that women play in engaging fathers. And if you're on here right now, if you're leading in a Head Start, if you're a campus principal, if you're leading a social service agency and you are a female that's promoting and pushing father engagement, first off, thank you. Secondly, let me know that you're here. But father engagement as it is, as a federal program, as a social work, as a push in what we call social media now. We used to call social marketing, and the idea was marketing an idea that helps society. That was way before social media came into play, barely before there was a website. But we used to talk about social marketing of how do we get these ideas that help society out into the public. So we talked about billboards, and we talked about bus benches, and we talked about buses and all these different ways to promote advertising before we had social media. And then it exploded and all got watered down all at the same time. So there's all these competing ideas and everything. But as we started working with fathers, the people that came to the forefront, the people that made this happen were women principals, women Head Start directors, women site directors in Head Start, women who were over family service providers in a Head Start. And we've done a whole slideshow in the past about kind of pioneering women in this field, particularly in Head Start, because they've kind of been in that field in a while. But father engagement would have not gotten any traction at the DC level, at the national organizational level, at the policy level, if it wasn't for women providing that leadership. So I told you Cinco de Mayo kind of pushed this out. As I go around the country talking about fathers, I have to just mention what a great dad I had. And there are times that my mom's actually been in the room, and I'm like, I need to talk about my mom because she's awesome. And she didn't always hear that, right? Because moms don't always hear that, but her kids know she's awesome. But the reason I had such a good dad was, number one, he married up. Number two, she wouldn't put up with his bull. And as a young man, a young husband, and a young father, when he would, let's say, I hate to say go astray because it doesn't mean he was out, gallivanting around doing things. But as he would make mistakes as a father, some of them pretty big, she stood her ground and said, you're going to straighten up and you're not going to do that. And all the different things that she said to him that helped him realize what he needed to do differently as a man and a father and a husband. And also took it when he said, well, here's what I need you to do differently as a woman and a wife and a mom. And so he passed away in 2013. They were just shy of 50 years of marriage. And the reason I have a good dad is because I had a mom that wouldn't take any less, right? So she's provided that leadership. And I learned my work ethic from my dad. I learned the way that I treat people from my dad, the way that I respect people with handshakes and conversation, which he had to endure as a young man to, because I know you're shocked, but I was outgoing, and he had to guide that and goes, you can be outgoing, but don't be an idiot. And I think he says that a lot. But he showed me how to treat people, how to work with people, how to kind of have that public face forward as much as my mom did. But I also learned how to hustle from my mom. My dad was always working. My dad was always out there trying to figure out the next thing. But he and mom both own their own businesses at different times and together. And so my hustle, my work ethic comes from my mom. She's a go-getter. But I tend to think my hustle comes from my mom and my work ethic comes from my dad, because my dad was kind of that slow, methodical plodder. My mom and I both, and I get this from my mom, more of the squirrel work ethic was like, grab that, grab that, grab that, grab that. But that's what we were doing. And then the women that I've worked with in Head Start in schools are the ones that said, hey, we need to do something for our dads. There are a few women that I work with that say we need to do something with our dads. And sometimes that's true, but so many other times what the impact is we have dads that need support. And these women have been the first to go to bat for the dads. And they've been the first to go to bat for dads because they know it impacts kids, right? Any of these women who are in leadership and father engagement, and particularly the ones that I have the most respect for, but also the ones that I see doing the most good, they want to have an impact on father engagement because they know it has an impact on kids, and that's what they're doing, and that's where I'm at. I don't do this for men. I do this because of what men do for kids. And so a shout out to all the women in leadership that help change policies, that help get some of us into conferences when nobody wanted to listen to us at a conference, that brought us in for training when they had to fight for us to come in for training, that have moved their staff along when the staff didn't like men, they didn't like their own fathers, or they didn't like the fathers of their children, but said, this is not about those dudes, this is about kids. And so thank all those women that really have helped me make a living, but also given us so much insight to programming and families and kids. And so, like I said, Cinco de Mayo was my mom's birthday, which every year people have a huge party for my mom's birthday. But it also led me to think about our next topic, and our next topic being Hispanic fathers. And no, you don't need to just work with Hispanic fathers on Cinco de Mayo. And no, you don't need to have a big blowout so dads will come. But it's a holiday that reminds us that we need to work with Hispanic families. I live and work in Texas. I work all over the country. I'm always working with Hispanic fathers. So I don't need a reminder, but it's something that I wanted to talk about. Because as we find new people that are trying to get father engagement started, their first misnomer is, yeah, but we've got a lot of Hispanic dads. Yeah, but we've got dads. We've got a lot of immigrant dads. I'm going to move that down. I feel like I'm looking down on you guys. But, we've got these guys that they're hardworking guys, and they're not going to come. And what we found is that's not true. The guys will come if you give them an invitation, and they'll come particularly if you give them an invitation directly to them as a father and in the language of their heart. And I would say home language, but home language and heart language are almost two different things sometimes. So home language is what we do surveys on and what we say, what do you speak at home? But you have guys that speak English at home. You have guys that speak English and Spanish at home. But what's going to impact their heart? Like if they are English proficient, that's fine. But if their mother and their father and their grandparents spoke to them in Spanish, that's their heart language, right? I guess my heart language is redneck. But when I hear y'all, then I know I'm with people. I know I'm with family. And so when we talk about heart language, that's it. So everything that we do at Strong Fathers is in English and Spanish. All of our posters, all of our stickers, all of our handouts, all of our flyers, everything we do is in English and Spanish. Yesterday, I had to do a video for our Strong Fathers Friday. And I'd have to do that in English and in Spanish. I don't do them together. It would take too long. But to make sure I get things right, I don't know if I do sometimes, kind of got to use a few cue cards to make sure I'm saying the right word or not messing it up, because one word can mean something, but it sounds like a word that you probably shouldn't use. So I'm always careful with that. But we do that so that guys that may have a basic understanding of English, as bad as my Spanish is at least their heart language as well. And so I tell people I speak redheaded Spanish, and families have given me an amazing amount of grace because my Spanish is not that good. But because I'm trying, they appreciate it. Because I'm trying, we can continue to work and reach them. And they have helped me learn and are continuing to help me learn Spanish. And I also find that Spanish sometimes is a moving target. So it just depends. There's 27 Spanishes, so it depends on where you're from, what Spanish you speak. You go into school, you've got 12 of those 27 Spanishes being spoken in the same school. So it's a little tough sometimes trying to do that. But here's what we know about Hispanic fathers. They love their kids. They love their families. They get up and go to work every day because of their love for kids and family. And if you invite them to come something specifically for them, for the sake of their children, they'll be there every time. We have no problems. I don't have a picture. I need to pull it up. But I have a picture in front of a Head Start. And the signs in Spanish, and I always say, what do people notice? And they say, oh, the signs in Spanish. I say, what else do you notice? And if you just look beyond the sign, there are landscape trucks. There are pickups. There are dump trucks, right? So these guys are going to work. These are hardworking guys. But they're coming by their kids' school first to make sure that their kids on track, make sure that they're doing what they can to help these kids get a better education, because that's why they did all the hard work that they did to get here and to stay here for the sake of their children. So my encouragement to you would be, do not think that these fathers won't show up. You just have to invite them. Hispanic dads show up. Asian dads show up. I have schools where I have 8 to 10 African nations represented. They show up. I'm in primarily African-American communities, and they show up. There's not a group of dads that don't show up when they're invited appropriately and properly. So, number one, happy Cinco de Mayo to all my Hispanic fathers that are out there. But to all the dads, we are trying to get people to know that if you invite them, they will come. And that leads me to the last thing we want to talk about. It doesn't matter if they'll come or not. They can't come anywhere right now. It doesn't matter where you want to go. Can't go anywhere right now. So we've had a lot of discussions over the last, since COVID, but I was wanting to have this discussion as soon as everything got locked down, but everybody was busy trying to figure out how they're going to teach kids and reach families virtually, online, everything else. But now this discussion is starting to bubble up of, we now know how much time we have at home or separated from the workplace. We still have training to do. We still have requirements to get covered. We still have people needing to do something, and we want to make sure that we're doing that appropriately. So it's a matter of spending your budget. It's a matter of spending your time. It's a matter of doing all that appropriately. Like, I've had people call me, not lately, but in the past, that said, hey, we need to spend some money. Can we do this? And I'm like, no, that's a wrong way to spend your money. Well, would you do it? Like, no, because I can't deliver on what I think would be the right delivery for that kind of money. See, I'm a recovering middle school principal, but I'm also a taxpayer. And so if you've got money, set aside for good things. Let's do good things and not just try to get money spent because it's a requirement. And so we're looking at doing some live virtual training, say 45 minutes to an hour and a half. We set out to do about an hour this morning with our dads from Singapore. We honored their time by finishing in an hour. And 30 minutes later, when we said we're kind of doing an after party, we had over half of the guys, or right at half of the guys, still on, asking questions, taking some comments, listening to what we had to say about it. So I think if we can provide the right opportunities, but there's several ways. It's a live event for your staff, or a drip, what they call a drip campaign, to where they would get an email with one lesson, and they could either get that every week, they could get that every Tuesday, Thursday, and so you would know when it was hitting, or you could do it where they finished one lesson and they could go to the next. So I guess you could say we need binge-worthy virtual training. But I'd love to get your input on this, love to hear what you would have to say, because we're building it. We're going to do it. I was supposed to do a couple of big live staff trainings in March and April. Those have been either postponed or canceled, and now we're looking at, we'll do it in the summer. That's looking postponed. So now we're going to a virtual model of what can we do on a virtual stage, if you will, and what's the best way. Does anybody really want to sit, this is the guy talking at 25 minutes in, does anybody really want to sit there for 6 hours on a virtual training? I don't think anybody does. So do we break it up by the week? Do we do one a day for a week? Do we break it up where you can get to it when you get to it? And if we do, will you get to it? So what kind of training do you need? How do you want it? And the other thing is, because you are directors and principals and managers, what's the best way we can provide that training so that you can manage it? Because I know how I did with when I was a principal, we didn't even have staff email, right? So until I became a teacher after I was a principal, we didn't have staff email or staff internet. We didn't have internet in every room when I was a principal, so that's how long ago it was. But even then, if we had to do a training, we always tried to find a way around it. I've watched my wife and my son and different people that I know that are teachers circumvent the training because they're required to do it, but it's not worth watching, or they don't feel like it's worth watching, and they find a way to click off and make it qualify. Well, we kind of know those tricks because I was the guy that did all those tricks. But the other piece is we want to make sure that it's not only engaging enough with it where they will stay, but if it happens to lag because sometimes you're just not motivated, it's okay. What are ways that we can double check and make sure they're paying attention and learning something? And even if it's not about their effort, is our material hitting the mark? And so we would need to assess that and evaluate that. And so I would say if there's any Q&A, but I don't see a whole lot of people on here right now, I'm still going to keep it posted. You're probably going to be watching this tonight when you have nothing else to watch, but that's okay. But if you have any questions, put it in the comments below because I'm going to be monitoring this. And then I think one of the things we're going to put out for next week, be on the lookout for that, is Monday morning is Murder Hornet Monday. And I can't wait to share that with you. That's going to be a fun time for us. And so don't forget, mark your calendars, 8 o'clock Monday morning, Murder Hornet Monday. And we'll go from there. I hope you guys have a great weekend. If you have any questions about engaging fathers in your schools or other programs, let me know, and we will provide all the information we can. Phone calls and emails are free. Products are affordable. Training is super expensive because, I mean, look, I'm like beautiful. But we'll do anything we can to help you guys engage fathers and families, and thanks for joining us whenever you do.